You too, Matt.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to today's Scrum Pulse webinar. I'm Lindsay Villasina from Scrum.org, and I'll be your moderator today. Today, our presentation is Scrum for Digital Marketing, Conquer the Chaos, and Deliver Value. Today, we have Clayton Darrohn from Fishbat, along with Matthew Hodgson from Zen Ex Machina, and he's also a professional Scrum trainer. Happy to have you guys, and let's get into some housekeeping items before we get started. Next slide. So your microphones will be muted throughout, but we do encourage you to ask questions. So please send your questions in through the Q&A box, and I'll be moderating those throughout the webinar. We'll probably do some Q&A at the end as well. And just so you know, the slides and the recording will be available within 24 hours of the webinar. It'll be posted on the Scrum.org website, and you'll also get an email with a link to access that. So don't worry if you don't get to take any notes. You'll definitely get a copy of the content. Next slide. Just really quick, a little bit about Scrum.org. For those of you not familiar with us, we are the home of Scrum. We were founded by Ken Schwaber, the co-creator of Scrum, in 2009. Our mission really is to help people and teams solve complex problems by improving how they work through higher levels of professionalism. We're focused on helping people through free online resources and activity-based live training led by our more than 340 professional Scrum trainers around the world. We really pride ourselves on consistency there. We all teach the same content. And we also have our Scrum certification tests as well that allow people to validate their knowledge. So we really support people wherever they are in their learning journey too, and help them to grow. And I hope that today's session plays a part in that. And with that, I will hand it over to Matt and Clay.
Hi, everybody. I am Clay Darrohn. I am one of the owners and founders of Fishbat Media. I've been in the digital space for 12 years, in marketing generally for 30 years. We've been delivering, I like to think, a good product to our clients over the last 12 years. Recent adopters of Agile, and probably one of the biggest proponents in the digital space for Agile, I'd say, based on our recent experience.
And I'm Matthew Hodgson. I'm the CEO of Zen Ex Machina. And as Lindsay said, professional Scrum trainer. And we've been in business in Australia and globally for a decade now. Our focus is on improving people's work lives by introducing contemporary ways of working with a target of 1 million people by 2025. And really, I'm really excited to be here with Clay today to talk about our experience together over the last, how long is it now, Clay? We've been working together like this?
I think it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to jump right in here, Matt.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so what we're going to do today is basically take you on a journey of where I was and where the agency was when we started back in 2007, take you through that chaotic experience of where we are today, and basically how Agile was able to really, really help us deliver value and internally kind of get things where we needed them to deal with the current evolving market today. So let's jump right in. So we started the agency back in 2007, and I'd like to consider that, compared to now, a very stable environment. When we delivered channels like social media, we were delivering things like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I don't know if you guys remember back then, but it was just cool to have a social media handle, right? All people cared about were likes, shares, comments. To have a social media strategy back then was a pretty big to do and a good thing to have. Email marketing was very, very basic. Limited from a design standpoint, wasn't a lot we can do. And really what we were focused on with our clients were open rates. When we looked at things like search engine optimization, it was very, very easy to get our clients to rank for certain keywords. There wasn't a lot of competition out there. And Google was pretty new to the game as far as setting up their internal algorithms. When you talk about paid ads in the digital space, again, going back to 2007, there was Google search, there was some banner ads, and there was some social media ads. Before Fishbat, I was with Likeable Media, and we were able to beta test a lot of the ads that you see now on Facebook and Twitter. And so the platforms are pretty easy to maintain and operate for our clients. And back then, even though it seems like it was a lot, we're talking maybe about, I don't know, 4,000 impressions a day that, that we were exposed to. Back before digital media, it was a lot less than that, but back then it was about 4,000 ads a day. When we look at where it's gone today, and I have to tell you, it's been a hell of a journey. But when we look at social media channels now, we're looking at Facebook, we're looking at LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, Twitter, and scattered throughout all these social media channels, you have influencers trying to carry your brand message to their clients everywhere. The content and targeting parameters change monthly depending upon the social and political climate within these channels. I'm sure you guys are familiar with all the times that Facebook has had any type of a data breach or current political campaigns. They really try to hone in on what and how people are being targeted, just for privacy settings and things of that nature. So that's constantly changing. Email marketing strategies have been evolved to looking at things like persona workflows, robust targeting features. It's very customizable. You guys are probably familiar there with, when you enter into an e-com experience and you're getting multiple emails from the brand that you've interacted with, and it's really based on what your user experience was with that brand. All that has to be worked out ahead of time before you actually launch that type of a campaign. Search engine optimization now, it's content rich. Those that are publishing the most content win with the proper keyword strategies. There are things out there like pillar page, landing pages. All strategy needs to be evolved around that. Paid ads or search, marketing, geo-targeting, multi-platform social ads, programmatic ads. All this stuff changes by the month, and it's being done by these channels really to enhance the experience for the user, but more importantly, to protect the privacy of those that we're actually targeting. So, all right, so we went from where we were in 2007 to where we are today. It's not enough to know all of this, right? You have to know how it all plays together. All of these channels need to kind of play off the same sheet of music, because to be exposed just to a Facebook ad or just to an email or just to a digital ad that you see come across Google, it's not enough. We're being exposed now to about 10,000 ads a day. So people need to see you. The old marketing rule was at least 3 times. We're between 5 and 6 times a day now that somebody needs to see you in order to have a moment with your brand and really want to be involved with your brand. So again, going back to 2007, this is where we were focused, and it was heaven. I mean, compared to now. Very rarely would we have one client with all the channels being operated on. Expectations were very low. They would either do social media, they would do search engine optimization, they would do email, or they would do ads. And they never really needed to be a part of all offerings at once. Our staff didn't need to think on strategy a lot. They spent most of their time thinking about brand voice and how to carry that out onto a social channel. Like, having a pretty Facebook graphic was enough back then. We needed maybe one person per account to really lead the account. You need one person and maybe somebody behind them writing content. So the need for a large staff was definitely not there at this point. Our staff thought it was really cool to be working for a digital marketing agency, to be able to be on the forefront of digital marketing strategies and campaigns and working with cool channels like Facebook and Instagram. And, that was a cool job to have. So of course there were a lot less turnover. When you look at the operational end of my business, we had a very small staff, because the limited deliverables called for it. And then these one-off services that we were providing made process management very, very, very easy. So in its entirety, delivering what we were delivering back in 2007 was pretty straightforward. We were able to deliver what the client valued back then. It was a lot of surface stuff, like I said, likes, comments, shares, general impressions. That's kind of where the market was. So there wasn't a need for a complex operational system back then, and we were doing well. Margins were high. So again, this is probably a good snapshot of where this is currently evolved and where it started evolving. The digital landscape became much more complex, and this is where we really struggled. The pace of change increased. One of the things that was really hard to get our arms around. I don't want to get too technical with everybody here, but for search engine optimization, again, ranking #1 on Google for whatever term you want, whatever keyword it was. Google would change their algorithms, and their algorithms were really based on, what kind of criteria would they look at to decide who would rank for what keyword. So if you wanted to rank for, I don't know, a soft drink, or for, your local pizza place, where to go get pizza, you would go ahead and do certain things that adhered to an algorithm on Google, and you would rank. And we knew how to do this. But then they would start changing things every quarter, and they would name cute fuzzy animals like penguins and pandas, and they were far from it. They were like lions and tigers and bears, and they did that quarterly. And they updated those algorithms, making us in our SEO department scramble and try to really understand what we had to do to get our clients to rank. Every month, we would see social media ad changes due to privacy restrictions. We used to be able to target people based on where they worked, what their occupations were, how much they made, gender, religious persuasion, really everything that you needed to, if you were advertising to somebody, to really get all that qualitative and quantitative data we had at our fingertips. That has slowly been eroding over the last 10 years due to privacy restrictions. So imagine, you're the client at this point, and you want to go ahead and you want to run a certain amount of ads and ad dollars, and that it's working for you, and then one day an algorithm changes and all that disappears. Then your agency needs to learn, or basically relearn, how to do that again, and you have downtime. So that's changing monthly. And then when we looked at weekly, we had content restrictions consistently, especially in political climates. We would have a not-for-profit client that would somehow, based on the algorithms in social media, fall into the same categorization as a political client, and our content would be immediately blocked, and then we'd have to go through processes with social media channels to get that content unblocked. Again, we're talking weeks here, where we would go where our clients would not have any content being able to be posted. So this was a severe challenge for us. So again, this is what we struggled with. Our agency focus on actual deliverables. Our strategy involving all digital deliverables were a necessity. We needed to understand how to kind of pull this all together. They needed to be reviewed regularly. And when I say regularly, we're talking sometimes weekly. Clients, knew at this point what was out there and what was available to them. So they were entitled to better metrics. So our offerings sometimes changed overnight. I mean, our staff needed more skill sets. So it wasn't enough to just be a good graphic designer. It wasn't enough to be just a good account manager. They needed to understand a little bit of everything, to understand, again, how all the specific digital channels were able to sing together and play on the same sheet of music. The need to pivot. Pivot was a word that was used a lot. But the need to pivot, the need to really understand what's changed and how to make that work for your client became a reality. And it is a reality more and more today. A lot more pressure to deliver, for our staff, for our account managers. Our turnover rate grew by about 20%. It was really hard to hold on to people. I'm not sure what the stat is, but if you Google the average turnover rate for a digital marketing agency, it's pretty high. It's one of the highest, I think, top 10 right now. When we look at things like operations, we needed more people to deliver more service, obviously. We had multi-layered, very complicated processes out there. And honestly, we didn't even know if they were effective. And by the time we were able to figure out if they were effective, it was too late. Very chaotic. Our profits started drying up. So this was the reality, that was what we needed to do, but we couldn't pivot. We just were too bulky. We had sometimes too many staff, sometimes too little staff. The ability to pivot really wasn't there. We became mediocre at everything and great at nothing. We couldn't really pinpoint issues to focus on them. We thought we knew what was wrong, and we kind of A/B test what was happening with our processes, which was hard because we weren't able to pivot quick enough for clients. Our staff was obviously overwhelmed. Again, turnover was happening. We put in a lot of pressure actually on people to deliver things that basically they didn't know how to deliver. Clients obviously weren't sticking around. We couldn't quantify actual workload with the appropriate talent. We were falling short on performance. And only when that happens in that situation, any of you that are listening that are on the service end, when you don't deliver a great product, you find yourself giving more of a bad product away to just try to appease the client. So the amount of work that was kind of funneling in was a lot more than what we were getting as far as our monthly retainers. We were losing money quickly. And then we enter Matt and Zen Ex Machina, and he was able to really, really help us.
Yeah, it was into this crazy environment that we were actually, as a company, looking for a digital partner. We're an agile consulting company, and it was like, well, at this point in time, we wanted to refresh our brand. We knew that social media was changing and evolving very, very rapidly in this environment that Clay has described. So we need someone to help us because this really wasn't something in our wheelhouse, wasn't our expertise. And of course, in doing that, we started off with refreshing our website. And being an agile company, we wanted to deliver it in an agile way. And I remember thinking, well, I'm probably going to have to, as because this is my product, I'm going to have to be the product owner of it. I'm probably also going to have to teach potentially someone to be able to deliver these initiatives in an agile way. So we went looking. Next slide, Clay. Clay, can you click to the next one for me? Cool. So we started working together using Scrum. We had 2-week sprints, and very, very quickly, one of the things that I loved about working with Clay's team on this is that it very quickly became an us project. There was no kind of me being the client and Clay being and his team being the service provider. But we basically had one team. It felt like one team. We were able to get our product to market very, very quickly because I could see updates. I could see things happening on a regular cadence, make decisions about where we wanted to focus, where we didn't want to focus, where we wanted to invest more time, where we want to invest less time. And we're able to get out things incredibly quickly. And I thought, good, we've done that. What's next? What other digital advice do we need? And so we kept the relationship going. We kept on working in this nice tight sprints of 2 weeks, setting a goal together, delivering the outcome and going, okay, what's next?
Someone actually just asked, when did you start working together?
It's probably 3 years ago, maybe now.
I'd say, yeah. Yeah, I remember you came. It was you actually came to see us a couple of days, right?
Well, that was to then start to go through this change.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess when Clay was talking before about the complicated environment in 2007, then evolving into a very, very complex one, it was probably around 2007 where we started working together. And then only about a year ago, I said to, and this is straight from my email, I said, well, Clay, we've been working in an agile way for a while. Is this something that you actually want to embrace and actually integrate into Fishbat itself? Is this something that you want to move from a more traditional way of planning and execution? Do you want to, is this something that would appeal to you? And he basically, he said yes. Said, well, you must have read my mind, because it was this kind of efficiency and transparency and effectiveness that was really helping us as a company ourselves with their advice to move through a lot of this change and being able to adapt to it quite effectively. And so we, about a little bit over a year ago, basically December year before last, I came to Patchogue, where Clay had his office, and we did some agile training together. Clay, could you go through the next one? Yep, and the next one. So we had some conversations about what kind of training might be useful. Obviously, we'd been working in using Scrum for a while, so this was really an opportunity to go, let's formalize some of those discussions about and help your staff understand what Scrum's roles are. We went through things like team design, went through centralization and decentralization with Management 3.0. We looked at value stream. We talked a lot about value and different perspectives of value. So how to understand and talk to your customers about value. What's a value to you versus what's a value to them? And looking at agile metrics. How do you identify whether or not these initiatives are being effective? Are they creating the kind of outcome that you're after? And these things helped us to, over a period of 2 days, have a discussion that moved from the perspective of planning into something that could be adaptive, based on metrics, understanding what kinds of impact in social media are you having, and then whether or not to pivot and change. Clay, over to you.
Yes, I'm sorry, guys, if my internet's a little choppy. I'm just having some issues here, but I'm going to turn my camera off. But yeah, so basically, after Matt was done with our initial seminars and getting us up and running, we kind of jumped right into it, and we started, like Matt said, with very short sprints. We wanted to be able to get the staff up and running and kind of dive right into it. And what we saw right out of the gate was we were able to prioritize work based on what the client actually valued and not overloading the team. A good point here is a lot of our statements of work were written before we got into actually executing Agile. And when we kind of explained to the clients like what we were doing, and really leading with their value, we were able to kind of uncover conversations we were having with our clients about what they needed and what was really what they wanted to accomplish at that specific moment in time. What we uncovered there were a lot of our clients were, because we had a executed statement of work that said we would do X, Y, and Z, they never even thought to come to us with their immediate needs because it wasn't covered within a contract. So one of the things that immediately started happening is we started having real conversations with clients about what their specific needs were right then and there. We have a lot of health and beauty and a lot of food clients that their retail calendars sometimes change by the minute. And when we're working in the kind of way that we used to be working, it was really hard for us to adapt to what they were currently doing. Again, if it should change within a week to 2 weeks notice. So, like we're talking about here, is we were able to prioritize the work based on what the client valued. The communication with our clients became just so much more fluent. We actually had some of them come into some of our sprint reviews. A lot of them knew what Agile was, so it wasn't like we needed to take a lot of time to train them as to what we were doing. But giving them the insight into how we were working and kind of marrying that with what they needed to have done right then and there, I have to say is probably one of the biggest values that we're giving our clients today. Our contracts are very fluent, and very fluid, and they're able to adjust with clients the way the markets are currently adjusting. I mean, when COVID hit, the clients that the clients that were with us just underwent an amazing change and metamorphosis within their business. And we were able to be there with them. We were able to retain a lot of business during COVID because of the way this actually, this enabled us to be able to speak with the clients. So the ability to pivot and getting a lot more work done. It's not, we were getting a lot more work done, but we were getting a lot of the right work done. So Agile's impact internally, I mean, the team approach was amazing. No one was left on an island. Nobody felt overwhelmed. It did take some time to get everybody used to working a certain way. This was a very transparent way of approaching our work, which as time progressed, we internally valued more. The focus on delivering value to clients rather than work became very easy to achieve, within our backlog and meeting the definition of done. It made our people feel good too. Our people felt good. They were actually, it's hard, working as an account manager and not getting the recognition that you feel that you should, that you deserve for the hours and the work that you put in. So to get recognition from clients that are actually seeing value makes it easier to come to work the next day. And again, imagine all this happening during COVID. It's hard enough to get up and get to your computer as like you're working from home. But as this is happening, our people are actually, feeling good about themselves because they're delivering value. We're also—
That's great. And sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
So how did the team overall like the change, and how long did it take them to adapt to that?
So, what's funny? So they say when somebody's drowning and you throw them like a lifeline, it's the best thing that like you could ever do. So
Right.
At that point, we were pretty much drowning. This is so here I come. I'm talking to everybody about how great this whole transformation is going to be, and I could have told them standing on your head for 12 hours a day would make everything go away, and they would have bought that too. So at that point, introducing Agile for them and telling them that this was a silver bullet that was going to fix everything, they were all on board, which is funny.
That's
because
great.
yeah, as we went through the exercises though, and as we started talking about things like transparency and multifunctional teams and things of that nature, you started seeing some of the cream rising to the top, of course. But then we also had some people that maybe weren't pulling their weight the way they should have, starting to regress a little bit within the process.
Gotcha. And Seema asked something kind of related to the beginning aspects of this. Did you start with a roadmap for Agile transformation? Is that how you started here, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Matt and Mia, when they were in, they really helped us kind of put all that together. And a roadmap was necessary to get our current account base, try to really assign value to the work that that like we were doing. We had to spend a lot of time there. We had to spend a lot of time kind of reprioritizing our clients and our client work. So that kind of roadmap was necessary, but we didn't let a lot get in the way of just launching, because it was necessary to really launch and learn. The best part about this was we were learning and we were adapting pretty quickly.
That's great. Let's keep moving.
So, I guess the last thing to cover here is hiring new team members is now a collaborative process. So as a stakeholder, within this Agile, like relationship, I have final word on who we're hiring, but the team is really bringing to fruition what they need. Like, this is where this team is needing support. These are the skill sets that, very specific. These are the skill sets that this team needs to deliver. Or maybe a new client gets worked into a team and we don't have all the skill sets there. We're able to identify that very, very quickly. And it's saving us a lot of time, and time is money here. So it's saving us a lot of time and money in actually understanding who and what skill sets to actually hire. So one of the things that that I think, and again, this is for I own an agency. So one of the things that that I think that should be noted is when just getting started, working 1 and then 2 week sprints, just trying to get your clients and your staff up to speed where you're not biting off more than you can chew. It is a cultural shift and it takes time to get everybody's buy-in. Now, we had buy-in right out of the gate, but I got to tell you, once we started getting up and running, we started seeing some people actually digress from the actual process. So you have to give people time to really wrap their heads around what's happening there. We're used to working a certain way, and now it's a completely different way. We like having our daily scrum in the middle of the day. It's a lot more productive. People are actually in their work, and they might have questions about the work or need some sort of collaboration while they're in the work. We find doing that in the middle of the day for us has been very, very productive. The other thing is to understand you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Being flexible, inspecting, and adapting are the keys to making this type of process work. We haven't stopped adapting. We are consistently, changing the way that the way that we're working, just based on the new findings that we constantly are having. And then as you progress, I really believe, at least again in the agency environment, we want to revisit the way that we're weighting our stories. They should be evolving our work. We're getting a lot more done a lot quicker. So again, the way we're weighting out a lot of those stories are changing. Our clients' value propositions are changing. So that really should be revisited consistently. I'm a big proponent of letting clients in on the process. I think when they see how this actually works and understanding that their value is at the forefront of this whole process, they kind of fall in line and love it and adhere to things like, hey, let's not put any work into this sprint. We've already identified value. We know what we're doing over this 2-week sprint. If you do really need to put something, we have to pull something out. But most of our clients, and again, it's been a year and change now where they're up and running with the process. They get it. It helps our staff stay very focused on what we need to do. Then tools. I mean, we love Asana to manage backlogs, and EverHour is a beautiful plugin that plugs right in there with it. So we're able to help weight some of the work from a time frame for like certain stories. And then we use Mural, for all team collaboration when we want to go ahead and kind of brainstorm and work within a Scrum or in one of our other meetings. I guess we can open this up for questions now.
Okay, great. There's some great ones that have come in, and please keep them coming. This first one here from Amber. How did you define a done increment for each sprint for the website project?
And when we started off, I had some very clear ideas about what quality meant for as the customer, but also what quality meant in terms of what we wanted out of sprint to sprint. So obviously, I'd a defined product goal. A definition of done for our work was that it was particularly because a lot of it was copy. So it was things like work has to be in plain English, in Australian English, because we're an Australian company. I remember so many conversations around, remember no Z's and there are S's instead, and it's just the way that us silly Australians write. But no, I was just very clear about this is how we create quality. And so it was defining an increment was more about as work gets to done, then it's by definition, it's now an increment. And then we simply worked out based on our persona work, how much of the website was now good to go for a release. Do we have enough of the right kind of story with the right kind of voice, with the right kind of value proposition to be able to now launch release a part of that website. And so we intended to do that. I think we're probably working through sprints for about 3 months before we did our first release. What kind of adaptations to Scrum did we make? None. I worked with Anna, who's the Clay Scrum Master, just to kind of help her understand, and this is really great from the last iteration of the Scrum Guide, which was November last year, basically all reference to software development is now gone. This is now a framework that's able to be used. It's like minimally sufficient in terms of its roles and its artifacts, et cetera, to be able to go, great, here is the minimal set that you need to use to inspect and adapt. It was more about, in my conversations with Anna, about things like sprint length. So, are you being able to inspect and adapt fast enough? We found when COVID hit my company, and we use Scrum throughout our company as our operating model, basically scaled Scrum is what we use. We shifted to 1 week sprints because COVID was impacting our own clients very, very rapidly. So we went, well, how do we create more focus? And well, let's change from our 2 weeks down to 1 week. How do we write stories? How do we write our backlog items? So it was more about having conversations with Anna to then help her team, to coach her product owner, to coach her team members about, here are patterns and practices that you can use to put on top of what is now vanilla is not quite the word, but I think minimally sufficient. Is that a Jeff term or is that a Ken term? I don't remember.
What was that term? Sorry.
Minimally sufficient.
I'm not sure.
But I think it's a great way to now look at Scrum, so that it's the minimum set that you need. I think, Clay, this one's probably for you. What kind of deliverables are meant to delivery to the client? Because someone says, because in my agency we don't work with creatives, just setting up campaigns and in different networks, refreshing creatives, reporting. How could this match with the Scrum mindset? What would be converted as a deliverable?
So our deliverables, pretty much when we started, are different than what they are now. But right now, they're everything from setting up brand voice, style. We move into strategy, strategic planning. Then on the execution end, we look at things like, our tactical plan, and that tactical plan can involve everything from email design, content creation for email, social media content calendars, workflows built within HubSpot. I can probably reel off another 10 to 15 of what the actual deliverables are. At the end of the day, they all kind of funnel down to a conversion. And really what's important and how we work within Agile is kind of peering back from all those deliverables and understanding which ones are actually converting. And we're able to see that very quickly within Agile, where in the past it was a little bit more convoluted and harder to understand and harder to, I hate using the word pivot because it's used consistently. It's almost like out of the box at this point. But I'll figure out another word for pivot, and we'll probably rename the agency. But honestly, so it's all the deliverables you can imagine within digital marketing. So if you're just on the creative end, that probably would be a little bit easier, I would imagine, to actually manage from a client expectation perspective, and really look at what your metrics are from that creative. Are they looking for conversion? Are they looking for just something pretty? Are they looking for something that's going to get any type of engagement? I hope that answered the question.
Someone, Albert, has asked a question, Clay. What and how did the agency team roles shift into Scrum roles? That is, who plays the Scrum Master, product owner, etc.
Yeah, it's
Did
funny.
you need to go and hire specific roles?
Yeah, no, we didn't. What was really cool was, we had somebody in operations. That operations person easily moved over to becoming like a Scrum Master, because they were operationally focused. They were kind of doing some of the stuff that we're already doing, within Agile. One of our top account managers became an amazing product owner. So she might not like the role because she is, she's just amazing. But she out of the gate was really in charge of wrangling the work and the things that were happening within that team to get the quality where it needed to be under an Agile format. So we kind of had the people. We didn't really need to go out and hire. The development team was great. I think one of the biggest challenges we had though was trying to make the development team multifunctional. That's probably what took us the most time. But as far as the people and looking to hire for different positions, we were all learning at the same time. So having us all kind of migrate to the positions we needed to be in within Agile was easy for us to do.
Someone, Miguel, this is a great question. How do you prioritize stories when you're receiving requests from multiple clients? How do you have a proper definition of done when each client has different requirements?
It's actually a great question. That's something that was consistently, honestly.
Yeah, that's because I was looking through and going, oh, this is a great question.
If we're giving away prizes, this question definitely gets the prize. It's about clear communication with the client, and honestly, definition of done with the client changes so many times, and keeping it kind of open-ended the way we do with our clients from a value perspective, it's sometimes really, really hard to do that. Basically the advice I can give you is really just keep the conversation open with the client as to what they value, understand what that is. If that's happening a lot, keep your sprints very tight so that you can adhere and change those stories and change that value for those stories as it's happening. And just do the best you can, because it does constantly change.
Yeah, you've got those some broad criteria though, and that's kind of a Dorothy Dixon question, I guess. But some broad criteria that applies to all work, don't you? How do you create quality?
Yeah. We do a lot of peer review. I would say probably a lot of our sprint time is spent in peer review to make sure that we're hitting that actual definition of done. And for our clients, it's things like checking links to make sure links aren't broken, making sure content is written to the part that our clients are actually used to. Graphics have to be at a top at a very, very high level, and then really those are specific stories, but it all kind of needs to migrate back to is this generating any kind of conversion for the client?
Great question. Thanks, Miguel, for that question. Let's see, what's some other interesting ones. Aleem says 1 week sprint seems to suggest there's no time pivot, challenge, or to change anything. Is it really advisable to start off with a 1 week sprint?
Well, from an agency perspective, absolutely, especially if you're just getting started. There's a lot going on, and you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Trying to plan out 2 weeks worth of work inside an agency that's just converting into Agile is really, really hard. Not to mention your clients, getting your clients to try to understand how and when to request work. We get a lot of requests for a lot of work, and if you're trying to block out a 2 week time frame for a client, from asking you to do something, it was we started out in 2 week sprints. And it was near impossible. We started, clients were sometimes getting angry. Again, we had them at this point earlier in the presentation. I mentioned we weren't delivering value, so we were over delivering more work, and we were taking requests whenever they came across. So, and then one day we just flipped the switch, and now we're not taking any requests for 2 weeks. So for us to do it inside a 1 week time frame is really, really the only way that we can really get up and running.
I remember the conversation with Anna around sprint lengths as you were kind of moving away from a 2 week to a 1 week, and I think what Anna was saying was that sometimes so much was happening external to with clients, they were needing the team to adapt faster, so it was easier to just kind of go, what can we deliver by the end of the week, in order then to go, great, now that we're here, what's the next set of changes that have been requests from the previous week that we're now going to take into this next sprint? And I know for my teams in Zen Ex Machina, that move to 1 week just meant that we could be, I mean, obviously there are many pieces like jigsaw piece puzzles that fit together for a larger outcome, but being able to do it in 1 week, you know, we could see progression faster, transparency was better, focus was better, because it just tended to be easier to go, well, what can you do by the end of the week, team? And they go, oh, well, that's pretty easy because today's Monday. So about this much, I think we can get. So kind of a weekly tended to work really, really well, I think, in that shift. And certainly that's what, in my conversations with Anna, she felt, I think, the same.
Yeah, it was daunting to try to plan out 2 weeks worth of work right out of the gate.
Any questions in the list you want to answer, Clay, that look good? Someone wants to know how big your Scrum teams are. Do you always only work with one client with one team?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. And this is something that we're currently working on. We started out with Scrum Teams at about 4 or 5 people. Again, depending upon the offering to the client, we probably have about 4 or 5 accounts within that team. And we're kind of falling back from that now. We're seeing that we're able to, with smaller teams, and looking at maybe 3 or 4 people per team with less accounts, we're able to provide a little bit more focus. And again, this is just as things are evolving. I mean, from the time we became an agile agency to now, I mean, things have changed 100 times over. So, I mean, just integrating HubSpot into the agency was another major move that we did. And that takes a lot of time and effort, and we want to still be able to deliver value to the client. So we're thinking, you know, what we've been seeing, and this has been probably a pivot, sorry about the word, that we've made over the last, let's say, 3 to 4 months, where we're doing less clients with smaller teams, and we're seeing that we're getting a little bit, again, we're providing a little bit more value. Let's see what else we have here.
Interesting. I find that you're going smaller, because I know that for some of our own clients, that as we go through agile transformations, there's a tendency to go, oh, well, more people is better, isn't it? So let's have larger teams. And I'm like, well, hang on, can we stop at kind of the 7, 8, 9, 10 barrier? You know, no more than 10. And then no, like if only we had more people. And yet you're now going, well, actually, to create focus, which I think is awesome. Like, let's actually have smaller, so they're not as context switching as much across more clients. It's fewer clients, smaller team, greater focus.
Yeah. Here's a good question. How did you manage to encourage multifunctionality of the development team? And that is something we are constantly working on. It's really, really important for us. It's probably one of our top things that, you know, that we're focusing on. We're leaving time within sprints for different development team members to kind of mirror other people that have maybe a higher skill set in a certain deliverable. So we're spending a lot of time there. We're spending a lot of time building training sessions in our like weekly sprints too, where we're getting more people certified in certain aspects of digital marketing. Putting that, again, something that we're thinking about out of the gate, understanding that it needs to be put into a sprint, taking the time for it, giving it a priority, and getting it done. Once we have 2 or 3 teams now that are multifunctional, and the amount of work they're getting done versus, you know, a newer team it's almost night and day. So it's really, really important, at least in our world, when we're looking at things like when we need something to be peer reviewed, you want somebody that can actually understand if the work is good or not. And if you have a development team that's kind of everybody's in their silo, which is the opposite of what a development team is, but based on digital competencies, you have a graphic designer, you have an ad person, you have a content developer. They're all from different necks of the woods. So, we're never going to train somebody that's great at pay-per-click marketing to be a graphic designer, but we can have them understand what a good graphic is and how that matches up to a client's design specs. So that's kind of what we're currently doing now within Sprint.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because you're right, you're not going to teach one person who's got an immense speciality that's so different from something else. But as you said, you can teach them to understand what quality looks like, and then be able to peer review it and go, okay, is this good enough? You know, does this meet our standard, our quality standard, to be able to then give to the client? And those are different skills.
Here's another great question. How has this impacted the way you sell work to new clients? And do you scope work out? It's a big shift for clients, especially in procurement, to sign contracts that are prioritize value and outcomes over deliverables. This has changed completely the way that we price ourselves out and the way we contract with clients. We have moved away from specific statement of work, specific monthly costs. We've kind of left a lot of the work open-ended. We're in the process of discussing a point system. So for X amount of dollars, you have X amount of points. Those points are weighted against a varied amount of deliverables that could lead to conversion, or could lead to a side project that you need done right now. And what we're doing is kind of recontracting with our clients. It sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. We're recontracting with our clients monthly, where we're saying, okay, this is the landscape and where we are today. This is how many points you have available to scatter across these deliverables. Where do we want to put them? Basically, just getting them in line with what they want to value for that month. So what this is inherently changed within the agency pricing model has gotten us to think more about how do we price to value, but not overextend ourselves, and have our clients really understand what they want done within that month. We're actually doing that right now. We're with the consultant and working out how to actually price deliverables within a point system without leaving anything behind for the client, but also delivering value.
Points by system. Yeah, I know a couple of our clients that use those, as they've moved away from having kind of upfront contracts, and because they want flexibility. So they go, well, you've got a certain amount of points. Where do you want to focus that in this, in the next 2 weeks, month, or whatever it might be?
Here's a question. If you were to do the transformation again, what would you have done differently? Of course, without saying done it sooner. Perfect. I would have not done it during COVID. No. I think we would have probably maybe spent some time prepping our clients better, maybe some written communication, maybe some video content we could have shared with clients about the process, really bringing the clients up to speed with what we were getting involved with, because we did make that kind of leap right in, and that's the way you got to do it nowadays, as far as with advertising agencies. But hold on one, I got a dog that's barking in the background. Sorry about that. My son's getting off the bus. But for us, really, it was more about trying to communicate with the clients the right way, getting them involved in the process, because we didn't want them. We wanted to alert them not to request as much as they were out of the gate, that something great was coming. That all their value would be met, and heard and delivered upon. It was kind of a bumpy ride for the first month to 2 months, I would say. So I definitely would have worked on the client communication a little bit better right out of the gate.
Here's one for you. How did you manage impediments that could jeopardize your sprint goal, particularly if you experience objective clients rather than clients that focused on empiricism?
Mind reading that question again, Matt? I was throwing.
How did you manage impediments that could jeopardize like, particularly if you've got suddenly a client that suddenly goes, oh, like I need to change everything, and like, oh, how did you manage those kinds of interruptions?
Yeah, that was hard. Again, it became easier as we kind of put that FAQ together. As we saw more and more of that happening. But client impediments were, basically telling them this is what you hired us to do. This is where our focus is for this week or for this 2 weeks. Has that changed? Okay, it hasn't changed, but this is still important. Yes, it's important. Okay, well, this is the myriad of work that we have planned for you for the next 2 weeks. This is the weight, and this is how much time and effort that this piece of work is going to take. Here's some recommendations on things we could pull out of this sprint. Have the client actually go on that journey with us and make that decision. 9 times out of 10, when they had to decide what they wanted to cut versus what they wanted to keep, they left everything alone. So having that question, having that conversation, that back and forth, a little hard out of the gate, but the clients did come around on it when they realized that they just couldn't keep lumping more on,
Were there some clients for you that that was an easier conversation than some others?
Discounting yourself. Let me think. Yeah, there were some clients that, and again, this is cheating, but there's some clients that got it. There's some clients that actually knew about it. I mean, Agile's not a big secret the way it was years ago, and when we took the time to really explain that this was in their best interests, of course, they were the easier clients. We have clients that are still gluttons. They want more. They want more. They want more. They want more. And they feel that volume is better than value, and those are the hard ones. But as long as we haven't lost them, it's just a battle that we continue to fight with them. And the reason why we haven't lost them is because we are providing value.
In spite of their more, you're providing value. It's great.
In spite of the more.
Probably have time for maybe one more. Any particular question you can see out of that list?
I'm digging around for a softball question here, Matt, but these people did pretty heavy. Do you consider?
Well, I've got one for you. Well, like, what's next? For kind of the next big learning that you kind of going through to take the kind of to the next level, because you mentioned focus seems to be a big theme that's come out of what you've been saying. But what is the next thing for you guys?
Yeah, so what's next for us is really working on that pricing model. We have built out a number of Scrum teams now, and we want to continue to deliver value for clients. Current landscape, people are coming out of COVID, right? So their businesses a lot, and maybe I'm just lucky because our clients are seeing this, but they're seeing more business come on in. They're working remotely. Their business is inherently changing. Our deliverables are changing to match up with their business. So it's really understanding how we're currently evolving to that, and pricing models and being more flexible with our pricing is really a main focus for what we're looking at right now. Being able to scale with their needs and not break their bank and not put us out at in a bad place.
That's great.
Yeah.
Lindsay, do you want to wrap up? I guess we're kind of at...
Yes, and there are a bunch of questions here that were still unanswered. I'll share them with our speakers here, and we will figure out a way to address those offline. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. As always, we encourage you to continue your learning, and you can check out the Scrum.org website. We have free digital learning paths to help you do that, and other resources on there as well as webinars like this one that we run about once every 2 weeks. So feel free to check those out on our website, and we hope to see you all again soon. And thank you again, Matt and Clay. It's been really great having this discussion today.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure.
Take care,
Clay.
everyone.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.